Liam had always been fascinated by space. Growing up, he would often dream of traveling to distant planets, meeting strange aliens, and seeing things no one on Earth had ever seen. Now, as part of a peacekeeping task force, that dream was becoming a reality. His latest assignment had brought him to a massive space station, located in a sector known for its political tension. It was a hub for various alien species, all with their own interests, fears, and ambitions. Liam's job was to help facilitate peaceful negotiations between these species, and it was no easy task. But he was determined to do his part. Eyes scanned the station's vast corridors, filled with people and creatures from all corners of the galaxy. There were towering beings with multiple arms, others who seemed to float effortlessly through the air, and some with strange features that Liam couldn't even begin to understand. But despite the diversity, there was one being who stood out above all the others. Her name was Zara, and she was an alien diplomat from a race called the Therans. Therans were known for their intelligence, advanced technology, and their reputation as one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Zara, in particular, was highly respected. She had a quiet yet commanding presence, and the way she carried herself made everyone around her aware of her importance. She was beautiful, but in a way that made people feel small, almost as if her beauty was a symbol of the power her race held. Liam had heard stories about Zara before. People spoke of her as if she were untouchable, beyond anyone's reach. They admired her, but there was always a sense of fear in their voices. No one dared to get too close to her. Liam, however, had never been one to follow the rules others said. He didn't care about her race, her status, or the stories people told. He was here to do his job, and that meant talking to everyone, no matter who they were. So when he was assigned to assist Zara in a diplomatic meeting, he was eager to get started. The first time they spoke was brief, a simple exchange of introductions. Zara's voice was calm and measured, but there was a coldness to it. She wasn't unfriendly, but it was clear that she saw him as just another human. One of many who couldn't possibly understand the complexities of galactic politics. Liam didn't mind. He wasn't here to make friends. No, he was here to help. As the days passed, Liam and Zara worked together more often. They met in conference rooms, reviewed documents, and discussed the needs and concerns of various species. Through it all, Liam noticed something odd. Zara was always professional, always focused, but there was a subtle wall between them. It was like she was distant, holding back from truly engaging with anyone. Even when they had casual conversations, she never seemed to let her guard down. It wasn't just her race that made her distant. It was something more. One afternoon, after a long meeting, Liam found himself alone in the station's central lounge, waiting for the next briefing. He was sipping his drink when Zara entered the room, walking with her usual grace. She didn't seem to notice him at first, but as she passed by his table, their eyes met for a brief second. For a moment, time seemed to slow. Liam couldn't help himself. He had to speak. "Zara," he said, his voice more confident than he felt. "I have to say, you have one of the sharpest minds I've ever encountered. It's impressive how you handle everything with such ease." Her steps faltered, and for the briefest of moments, her usual composure shattered. She blinked, clearly taken aback by his words. The room seemed to hold its breath as the silence stretched between them. Liam had meant it as a compliment. Something simple and genuine. He didn't expect such a reaction. Most people would have smiled, nodded, or even downplayed the compliment with a polite thanks, but not Zara. Her expression was unreadable, her face frozen in shock. For a second, Liam wondered if he had said something wrong. Was it too personal? Did she not like being complimented? But before he could speak again, Zara cleared her throat and quickly regained her usual calm demeanor. "Thank you, Liam," she said softly, her voice slightly strained. "I appreciate your words." But there was no warmth in her tone, only a cool professionalism. She turned away and walked to another part of the lounge, leaving Liam staring after her, still unsure of what had just happened. Later that day, Liam couldn't shake the image of Zara's frozen reaction from his mind. I've seen many different species in his travels, but there was something about Zara that was different. She wasn't like the others. He thought about what he had said to her. Had it really been so unusual? Maybe it was the way he had spoken to her without fear or hesitation. After all, most people were intimidated by her, and he had just treated her like anyone else. But there was something more to it. He could tell that the compliment had affected her, but in a way that left him with more questions than answers. As Liam sat alone in his room that night, he couldn't help but wonder, what was it about Zara that made her react like that? Was it just his words? Or was there something deeper? Beneath the surface? One thing was for sure. He hadn't expected his first real conversation with Zara to be so unforgettable. The following days on the station were filled with tension. Several alien species had gathered to discuss matters of peace, trade, and their shared future in the galaxy. But despite the important work at hand, Liam found it difficult to concentrate. His thoughts kept drifting back to the moment he had spoken to Zara in the lounge. The way she had frozen when he complimented her still bothered him. Liam had seen many people from different worlds during his time on the station, and most of them were open and friendly in their own ways. But Zara, Zara was different. It wasn't just her beauty or her powerful presence. There was something deeper, something mysterious about her that drew Liam in. He couldn't understand it, and that made him even more curious. He hadn't spoken to Zara much since that moment, but the next time their paths crossed, he noticed she was avoiding him. She always had a reason to walk in the opposite direction, or her attention seemed focused on something else whenever he entered the room. It was clear that his compliment had made her uncomfortable, but why? He didn't understand. Compliments were a normal part of communication, weren't they? Especially when someone had earned them. Liam didn't like the feeling of being unsure. It was something he wasn't used to. So, he decided to confront Zara. It wasn't about the compliment anymore. It was about understanding what had happened. Maybe he had made a mistake, or maybe there was something more to it than he realized. One afternoon, as they were both leaving a meeting, Liam found himself walking beside Zara. This time, she didn't seem to notice him at first, but when she did, she quickly straightened up. Her usual cold demeanor returned. "Zara," Liam said, his voice calm but determined. "I think we need to talk." Zara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she glanced at him with a cautious look, almost as if she was measuring whether or not to continue walking. Liam couldn't read her expression, and that bothered him. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," Liam continued. "I just wanted to say something I thought was true. You're one of the smartest and most capable people I've ever met." Zara's eyes narrowed just slightly, but she said nothing. "I know it was just a compliment, but it seemed like it bothered you." "I want to understand why," Liam added, hoping his words would make some sense to her. Zara stopped walking and turned to face him. For the first time, she looked directly at him. Her gaze was intense, but there was a flicker of something else. In her eyes, vulnerability, confusion. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but hesitated. "You don't understand," she finally said, her voice quieter than usual. "No one has ever spoken to me like that," Liam frowned, not quite understanding what she meant. Like what? Zara took a deep breath and looked around as if making sure no one was listening. Like a person, not a Thyran, not an ambassador, not someone who's expected to be perfect and always in control. Liam blinked. "But you are a person," he said. "That's what I meant. I've seen you handle everything here with such ease. You're impressive." Zara shook her head slowly. "It's not about being impressive," she said, her voice still soft but filled with frustration. "It's about expectations. The people I work with, they see me for what I can do. It's for what I represent. They never see me for who I am." "What? Really?" Liam was silent for a moment, trying to process her words. He hadn't realized how much pressure she must have been under. Zara wasn't just a brilliant diplomat. She was a symbol of her people's strength and intelligence. But that came with its own set of burdens. "I didn't mean to make you feel like you had to be something more than just yourself," Liam said, his voice sincere. "It wasn't my intention." Zara looked at him, her expression softening slightly. She still seemed distant, but the walls between them were starting to crumble. No one ever sees past the surface. And that's how I was raised. Never show weakness, never show emotion. I've been trained to keep my feelings hidden, to keep myself ... controlled. Liam nodded slowly. I get that, he said, but maybe you don't have to be controlled all the time. You can just be yourself. People might like that. Zara was quiet for a long moment. I don't know what it's like to just ... be, she finally admitted. I've always been expected to be perfect. Liam gave her a small, reassuring smile. Well, I think you're doing just fine. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. Zara's eyes flickered with something. Maybe it was surprise. Maybe it was gratitude. She opened her mouth to say something, but before she could speak, a voice called out to them. Zara. A deep voice echoed down the hallway. A tall, alien figure, one of Zara's colleagues, was walking toward them. Zara quickly stepped back, her expression turning cold once again. Liam saw the shift in her demeanor. The mask she had worn for so long slipping back into place. She looked at him once more, her eyes betraying a brief moment of vulnerability before she turned to face her colleague. I'll see you later. Liam, she said, her voice back to its usual calm tone. She gave him a brief nod before walking away, her figure disappearing into the crowd. Liam watched her go, feeling a strange mix of emotions. He had hoped that this conversation would bring them closer, but it had only left him with more questions. Zara had opened up even if just for a moment, but he couldn't help but wonder how deep the walls around her truly were. As Liam stood there alone, he realized something. He wasn't sure if he had helped Zara at all. But one thing was certain. Wasn't going to give up on understanding her. And maybe, just maybe, Zara would allow him to see her for who she really was. The days after their conversation felt different for Liam. He was still trying to wrap his mind around Zara's words. He had always thought of compliments as a simple, everyday part of communication, a way to express respect or admiration. It seemed that for Zara, something as small as a compliment could stir up emotions she had carefully hidden for years. Liam couldn't stop thinking about her. He noticed the way she acted around him now, the cautious glances, the cold, distant demeanor. It was as if he had somehow broken a barrier, but not in the way he had hoped. Zara was still polite, still professional, but the warmth that had briefly flickered in her eyes had disappeared. He didn't know how to fix it. He hadn't meant to cause her pain. All he had done was speak his mind, tell her something he truly felt. Why couldn't she just accept it? The human part of him couldn't understand why something as harmless as a compliment could cause such an effect. Over the next few days, their interactions became strained. Zara would enter a room and quickly find something to do, or if they passed in the halls, she would avoid his gaze. She was doing everything in her power to keep their distance. It made Liam uncomfortable. He had always been someone who enjoyed conversations, who liked getting to know people, but Zara was so different. There was always a wall between them, one that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't seem to break through. It wasn't just Zara, though. The others around them had started to notice too. Whispers circulated among the crew. People who had once praised Zara now seemed to view her with a strange mixture of curiosity and concern. Even some of her closest colleagues seemed to pull away from her. He saw something was wrong, but no one knew what. Liam wanted to help. He felt like he had triggered something deep inside her, something she wasn't ready to face. But every time he tried to approach her, she closed herself off even more. One afternoon, he found himself in a quiet corner of the station, watching the stars outside the large observation window. He had always loved the view of space, the way the stars twinkled, distant and unreachable. It felt peaceful, yet it reminded him of how far apart he and Zara had become. He was so lost in his thoughts that he didn't hear the soft footsteps. Approaching behind him, Liam, a voice called softly. He turned around and saw Zara standing a few feet away, her posture still as rigid as ever. But for the first time in days, she wasn't avoiding his gaze. Zara, he replied, his voice tentative. He didn't know what to expect from her anymore. What's on your mind? Zara stepped forward, but she still seemed hesitant. almost as if she were unsure of whether she should be there at all. "I owe you an apology," she said, her voice low. Liam was taken aback. "Apology for what?" "For how I've been acting toward you." She paused, her eyes flickering with something that Liam couldn't quite place. "I've been avoiding you because I don't know how to handle everything that happened. When you complimented me, I didn't know how to respond." Liam's brow furrowed. "But I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I just wanted to say something nice." "I respect you, Zara. I really do. I know," she said softly. "And that's part of the problem. You see me as a person, Liam. Not just a representative of the Thyrans, not just an ambassador, but that's all I've ever been. My people have never allowed me to be anything else. I've always been expected to be perfect, to never show weakness." Liam could see the struggle in her eyes. He had never imagined Zara, the confident, intelligent diplomat, would feel this way. She had always appeared so strong, so composed. And yet now, in this quiet moment, she was showing him a side of herself she had hidden for so long. "I didn't realize," Liam said, taking a step closer to her. "I'm sorry if I made things harder for you. I never wanted to hurt you." Zara shook her head, a small, bitter smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "You didn't hurt me, Liam. You just made me realize how much I've been holding inside. For so long, I've been focused on my duty, on my position. I've forgotten what it means to just feel." There was a long silence between them. Liam didn't know what to say, but he didn't want to interrupt her either. She was opening up to him in a way she never had before, and he didn't want to ruin it. Finally, Zara spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "I've spent my entire life trying to live up to expectations, trying to be something more than I am. But maybe I don't have to be perfect all the time." She looked at him, her eyes searching his. "Maybe I can just be Zara." Liam smiled softly, a feeling of relief washing over him. "You don't have to be anything but yourself, Zara. No one is perfect, not even the greatest diplomats in the galaxy." Zara's expression softened, and for the first time in days, Liam saw a hint of warmth in her eyes. "I've spent so much of my life trying to please others, but I think I'm starting to understand what it means to please myself." The air between them seemed to shift, and for the first time, it felt like Zara was truly seeing him not just as a human, but as someone who cared about her. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to see herself in the same way. Liam took a small step forward. "I'm glad you're starting to see that. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. You don't have to carry everything on your own." Zara looked at him, her expression still guarded but softening. "Thank you, Liam," she whispered. The moment hung between them for a few seconds. And as they stood there, Liam realized that perhaps this was the beginning of something new. It's not just between them, but for Zara too. She was starting to let go of the weight she had been carrying for so long. And maybe, just maybe, he could help her find the peace she'd. The following week was quieter on the station. Political discussions were still ongoing. But Liam found that his attention kept drifting back to Zara. Her walls had started to crack little by little. She was still the professional diplomat, still handling everything with ease. But there was a softness about her now that he hadn't seen before. They spoke more often, though their conversations were always brief, and they both kept a professional distance. Yet, there was an understanding between them, an unspoken acknowledgement that things were changing. It was during a routine meeting in one of the conference rooms that things shifted again. The meeting had ended early, leaving Liam and Zara alone in the room, surrounded by the silence that followed. Zara, as usual, was reviewing some reports, her focus entirely on the data before her. Liam, however, could tell that her mind wasn't completely on the work. She was distracted. For a moment, he stood there, wondering if he should just leave. But something told him that this was the moment to speak again. Zara was clearly conflicted, and if they were going to move past the awkwardness of their earlier encounters, it was time to have a real conversation. "Zara," Liam said, his voice breaking the silence. She looked up, meeting his eyes for a brief second, before quickly looking away. "Yes," she replied, her voice as calm as ever. But Liam could sense the hesitation in her tone. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other day," he began, trying to keep his voice steady, about ... not being perfect. "And honestly, I don't think anyone expects you to be." Zara's hands froze on the report she was holding, and her eyes flickered to him again, a hint of surprise showing in her expression. But she said nothing. Instead, she simply waited for him to continue. "I think," Liam said slowly, "that you're more than just the expectations others have placed on you. You're more than just a diplomat. You're a person. And, from what I can tell, you've been carrying a lot on your shoulders." Zara let out a long, slow breath. She didn't respond right away, and for a moment Liam thought he might have pushed too far. But then, to his surprise, she set the report down and stood up. Her gaze remained distant, but her body language had changed. She wasn't trying to hide anymore, she was opening up just a little. "I've never told anyone this," Zara said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "But the truth is, I've always felt like I was never enough." Liam raised an eyebrow, surprised by the admission. "What do you mean?" Zara glanced out the window, her eyes lost in the view of the stars. "Being a Thyran is different. We are taught to never show emotion, never let our vulnerabilities show. We are supposed to be the perfect model of strength and intellect, always in control. But I never felt like I fit that image." Liam felt a wave of understanding wash over him. Zara wasn't just hiding behind her walls because of her position. She had been hiding herself, her true self, because she feared that if anyone saw who she really was, they wouldn't accept her. "When I was growing up," she continued, her voice growing softer, "I always felt like I was failing. Everyone around me was so confident, so sure of their place in the world. But I didn't feel that way. I didn't want to be a symbol of perfection. I just wanted to be ... myself." Liam nodded slowly, his thoughts racing. He had never realized how much pressure Zara had been under, how much she had struggled with the expectations of her people. She was more than just the cold, professional diplomat he had first seen. She was someone with real fears, real doubts, and she had been carrying those alone for so long. "I can't imagine what that must have been like," Liam said quietly, his voice full of empathy. "It sounds exhausting, and I think it's okay to let go of that burden. You don't have to be perfect for anyone. Not for me. Not for anyone." Zara looked at him then, her eyes searching his face, as if she were trying to read him, trying to decide whether she could trust him. For a moment there was a long silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was as if Zara was finally allowing herself to take a breath, to consider the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she could start living for herself, instead of living up to everyone else's expectations. "You don't understand," Zara said softly. "No one ever has. The Thyrans, they don't see me as a person. They see me as an ideal, a representation of their power. They don't care about my feelings, my doubts. To them, I am just ... A tool. Liam's heart went out to her. Known she carried herself with a sense of pride, but he hadn't realized how much of that pride was forced upon her. She wasn't just playing a role, she had been living someone else's dream. "You're not a tool, Zara," Liam said, his voice firm and sincere. "You're a person, and you deserve to be seen for who you are, not just as a symbol of your people's strength." Zara's lips parted as if she wanted to argue, but then she closed them again. She looked down at her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. For the first time, Liam saw something more than just the strong, composed diplomat. He saw the person beneath the facade, the person who had been hiding for far too long. "I've never known what it's like to be seen," Zara whispered. "To be truly known for who I am. But maybe ... maybe I can start now." Liam smiled, the weight in his chest lifting just a little. He had never expected this kind of conversation, never expected to see Zara so vulnerable. But in that moment, he realized how much courage it had taken for her to open up. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something important, not just for Zara, but for both of them. "I'm here for you, Zara," Liam said softly. "Whenever you're ready to stop hiding, I'll be here." Stare looked at him, her expression a mix of surprise and something deeper, something he couldn't quite name. For a brief moment, their eyes locked, and Liam could see the smallest spark of something new in her gaze. For the first time, Zara allowed herself to feel something real. And Liam, for the first time, felt like he wasn't just an observer in this galaxy of unknowns. He was part of something bigger. Something that... The days that followed their conversation felt lighter, but there was still a certain weight between Liam and Zara. It wasn't gone, not completely. It was like a shift in the air, something subtle but present. Zara was still her professional self, always focused on her work. But there was something different now. She seemed more ... open. More human. Liam noticed it the most during their meetings. Zara would still handle the diplomatic discussions with her usual expertise. But every now and then, her gaze would linger on him. There was a softness there, a quiet understanding that had been missing before. Liam couldn't explain it, but he knew things were changing. One evening, after another long day of discussions, Zara found Liam sitting alone in one of the station's observation lounges. The stars outside twinkled in the distance, vast and endless. It was a sight that had always amazed him, a reminder of how small and insignificant they all were in the grand scheme of things. Yet here they were, playing their part in something much bigger. Zara stood at the entrance of the lounge for a moment, watching him. She hadn't spoken much to him since their last conversation, but now she felt like she needed to. The air between them was still there, but it was different now, less tense, less heavy. She wasn't sure what had changed, but she could feel it. Liam. Zara's voice was calm, but there was something new in it, something that made Liam look up. He smiled when he saw her. "Hey Zara, what's up?" Zara hesitated for a second before walking over to him. She sat down beside him, not across the room like she usually did, but beside him, close. For the first time, Liam felt like she was choosing to be near him. Not just because of duty, but because she wanted to be. "I've been thinking," Zara began, her voice quieter now, "about what you said, ... about being myself." Liam nodded, not wanting to interrupt her, but also not quite sure what to say. "I meant it. You don't have to be perfect for anyone. You're a person, just like anyone else. You don't have to carry that weight." Zara smiled faintly, though it wasn't the usual practiced smile she often wore. This one was softer, more genuine. "It's hard for me to let go of it," she admitted. "I've spent my whole life trying to live up to other people's expectations. I don't know how to stop." Liam turned toward her, giving her his full attention. "You don't have to do it all at once. Just take it one step at a time. You're not alone in this, Zara. If you ever need help, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'll be here." Zara looked at him, her eyes searching his face. She had heard words like this before, but they had always felt empty. But when Liam said it, she felt something different. There was sincerity in his voice, and there was kindness. She could see it in the way he looked at her, like he saw more than just the diplomat. He saw the person beneath the armor, the one who had been hiding for so long. "I don't know what I'm doing," Zara said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "I don't know how to be vulnerable. I don't know how to stop pretending to be someone I'm not." Liam reached out, placing a hand on the armrest next to hers. "You don't have to do it perfectly. It's okay to let go sometimes. We all have our walls. But the more you open up, the easier it gets, and you don't have to do it alone. I'm here for you." Zara turned to him, her eyes glistening. She had spent so long keeping everyone at arm's length, never letting anyone see the cracks in her armor. But with Liam, something felt different. For the first time, she wasn't afraid to take a step forward, even if it was just a small one. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." Liam gave her a warm smile, but he didn't say anything more. He didn't need to. He could see the change in her, the way she was letting go of the perfection she had clung to for so long. It wasn't easy, he knew that, but he could see the first steps toward her finding herself. For the rest of the evening, they sat together, watching the stars outside. There was no rush, no urgency to the moment. It was simple just to people, sitting in silence, sharing the vastness of space. In that quiet moment, Zara felt a weight lifting off her chest. For the first time, she allowed herself to just ... be. Over the next few days, Zara started to change in small ways. She let herself take a breath during meetings, stopped worrying so much about saying the perfect thing. She even began to laugh more, a soft sound that Liam had never heard from her before. It wasn't much, but it was a start. She still had a long way to go. The expectations of her people, the weight of her role, all of it was still there, pressing down on her. But now, she didn't feel as trapped by it. She knew that she had the power to change, to stop hiding behind the walls she had built for so long, and with Liam by her side, she didn't feel like she had to face it alone. One day, as they were walking down one of the station's long corridors, Zara turned to Liam with a small smile. "I'm starting to understand what you meant," she said. "It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be vulnerable." Liam smiled back at her. "Exactly. You don't have to carry it all alone. You don't have to be anyone other than yourself." Zara paused for a moment, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "Maybe I can do that," she said quietly. "Maybe I can finally stop pretending." Liam gave her a nod, a sense of pride welling up inside him. He had seen her strength, and now he was seeing her beginning to find her true self. It wasn't going to be easy, but she was already on her way, and for the first time in a long time, Zara felt like she... The days following their heart-to-heart conversation felt like a new chapter in the story of Liam and Zara. The space station, which had once felt vast and empty, now felt like a place where they could truly connect. Zara had begun to shed some of the walls she had built up over the years, and Liam, for his part, had been there for every small step she took. They were no longer just two professionals working side by side. They had become something more, a team in every sense of the word. Zara was still the same strong diplomat, but now there was a gentleness to her that had never been there before. She no longer carried the weight of perfection on her shoulders, and it showed in her work, her interactions with others, and, most importantly, in her conversations with Liam. One evening, as the station's lights dimmed and the stars outside shone brighter, Zara invited Liam to join her for a walk in the station's observation deck. It was a quiet place, away from the busy corridors where the diplomatic staff often gathered. They'd both been working hard all day, and this moment of peace felt like the perfect way to unwind. As they stood by the window, gazing at the stars, Zara took a deep breath. For the first time, she felt like she could simply breathe, without worrying about who was watching or whether she was living up to anyone's expectations. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. "Liam," Zara began, her voice soft and thoughtful. "I've been thinking a lot about everything, about the changes I've been making, and about how much you've helped me." Liam turned to her, surprised by the sincerity in her tone. "I haven't done anything special. You've done all the work. You're the one who's been strong enough to start opening up." Zara shook her head gently. "No, you've helped. More than you realize. You made me realize that I don't have to be perfect, that I don't have to carry everything on my own." She paused, her gaze turning back to the stars. "For so long, I've been afraid of letting anyone see the real me. But now, I feel like I'm finally starting to live for myself, not just for everyone else." Liam smiled softly, moved by her words. He had always known Zara was strong, but now he could see her starting to believe in her own strength, not just as a diplomat or a Thyran, but as a person. "You've come a long way," Liam said, his voice full of pride, "and I'm proud of you." Zara's eyes softened, and for a moment she looked vulnerable, something she hadn't allowed herself to show for a long time. She took a step closer to him, her gaze not leaving his. "There's something I've been meaning to say," she said quietly, almost hesitantly. "I've been afraid of letting people in, afraid of being ... hurt. But with you it feels different. I don't know why, but it does." Liam's heart skipped a beat. He had suspected it for some time, but hearing her admit it out loud was something else entirely. He stepped a little closer to her, his voice gentle. "You don't have to be afraid, Zara. I'm not going anywhere. I've been right here the whole time." she smiled, a small, tender smile that reached her eyes. I know, and that means more to me than you'll ever know. The moment hung in the air between them, quiet but filled with understanding. Zara had always been careful with her emotions, always kept everything under control. Here, in this moment, she was letting go. She was finally letting herself be seen for who she truly was. I never expected to feel like this, Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. I never thought I could feel ... seen. Not just as a representative of my people, but as me. Just Zara. Liam reached out, his hand brushing against hers. It was a simple gesture, but it felt like the most natural thing in the world. You don't have to be anyone else. You're enough as you are. Zara's eyes flickered with something deeper now, a quiet kind of hope. She took a small step closer, her breath catching in her throat. It felt like the universe had slowed down, giving them this one moment. There was nothing else, no distractions, just the two of them and the quiet hum of the station around them. Liam could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He had never imagined he'd find himself in this position. Not with someone like Zara. She was strong, powerful, intelligent, everything he had ever admired in a person. But now, seeing her open up to him, seeing the vulnerability in her eyes, he realized just how much he cared for her. Zara's gaze dropped to his hand, and without thinking, she reached out, taking his hand in hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The connection between them was undeniable, silent understanding that went deeper than words. I never thought I would let anyone in, Zara admitted, her voice trembling slightly. But I'm glad it's you. Liam squeezed her hand gently. I'm glad too. They stood there for what felt like an eternity, watching the stars together, hands intertwined. For the first time in her life, Zara wasn't worried about what others thought. She wasn't trying to live up to anyone else's expectations. She was simply herself. And that was enough. And for Liam, standing there with her, he knew that he had found something far more valuable than any diplomatic victory or political achievement. He had found someone who truly saw him, and someone who had allowed him to see her in return. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't easy, but it was real, as the stars shone brightly outside. Liam and Zara knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And that, more than anything, was enough to make the vastness of space feel just a little bit